5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wise Kids Day, everyone! For those who do not know me, I am teacher Mitch, an educator for about 30 years, mother of 5 and homeschool parent of 3, directress of Wise Kids School, a regular school for about 20 years, and the Modular and homeschool provider for about 10 years, influencer of many. I've been asked these questions. When will the classes start? How do we do social distancing in a class size of 20? Is homeschool for us? Which mode of learning fits our budget and our lifestyle? If you have been asking these questions, this webcast is for you. I'm here to share my research, my thoughts, and my experiences that could help you to come up with a better choice. Homeschool, modular, or traditional, which one works for us? So let's get ourselves ready. You might need to take down some notes as we go through this discussion. To give you an overview, this is what I intend to share with you, given only a few minutes of your most precious time. 3 things. What is education? I'm going to give you an evolving definition of education throughout the years, the ultimate goals of education, and the different learning modes. Number 2, we're going to do a comparison, comparing the different learning modes. And number 3, we're going to have a quick readiness assessment. In here, we will have 8 questions to answer for you to know if you can do an alternative form of learning. Oh, and another thing, can I ask for your commitment for 2 things? Dalawa lang naman po. Number 1 is have an open mind. We need to take a look at the bigger picture before we come up with a choice of what mode to take. With the present scenario, we have to have a hopeful mindset that we can still continue with our child's learning. We also have to be open to the new possibilities that would fit our family setup based on the new normal. Number 2, aside from having an open mind, we have to hear this webcast until the call to action part. Please po, if it's possible, please involve your co-parent and your child. It's better that way. There are ABC action steps at the end that could help you to move forward. Are we all set? Are ballpens ready? Open mind on? Distractions out? Thank you. What is education? This is number 1. Let's take a look at the evolving definition. Please, this is a little boring for part, but please take note of the dates. That's the most important thing. We're starting in 1828. Now, this is going to be fast. Noah Webster, bringing up of a child, instruction, discipline, which are intended to enlighten understanding, correct the temper, and form the manners of the youth to fit them for usefulness in their future situations. Give them religious education as parents and guardians neglect these duties. Ouch. 1956, Webster's New World Dictionary. Bring up, train to give knowledge, develop the knowledge, skill, and character by formal schooling or study. That was 1956. 1974, Grosset Webster's Dictionary. To instruct, inform, and enlighten, indoctrinate. Now it's becoming simpler. 2009, Encyclopedia Britannica Online. Transmission of values. Now there was the word values and accumulated knowledge of a society, socialization, or inculturation. Guide children in a learning culture, holding their behavior in the ways of adulthood. So it's really evolving. 2017, dictionary.com online. act or process, now it makes use of the term process, of imparting general knowledge, developing the powers of reasoning and judgment, and generally preparing oneself or others intellectually for a mature life. There's this concept of the future, preparation, reasoning, judgment. From these definitions, we see that the understanding of education changes through time. Yes, it's really moving towards a different paradigm based on the circumstances and needs of a society. If we believe, based on this definition, that our children can learn all this even through other venues aside from the classroom, then we can be more adaptable to alternative learning methods. For a moment, please reflect on this. On the scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being the highest, how important is education for you? Our last definition made mention about process and mature life. Let's go to the ultimate goals of education. Do we really send our children to school just to get honors, high grades, pass the tests, move from one level to another? So these are the ultimate goals. Transformation of the heart. Of course, it starts with the skills, knowledge, but eventually, the heart is what matters at the end of the day. Are they becoming better people? Another one is intentional mentoring through close relationships. Of course, nobody wants their children to be taught by people of no character. We want good-natured people to teach our children. And of course, an example, a mentor who goes through life with them and teaches them to become a better person. And who's the better person to teach that? Diba? Tayo po talaga yung mga magulang. Passing the baton. Education is not about this generation. It is about passing the values, the culture from one generation to the other generation. So, let's reflect. For you, what is your goal for education? If we said that the definition of education is more about the process, leading to a mature life, and ultimately the goal is all about the transformation of the heart with intentional mentoring from one generation to another generation, what then are the different modes of learning? So, These are the different definitions. Letter A, home study. This is different from homeschool. Excuse me. Home study is schooling, but it's supervised by the teacher or a tutor, but it's done in the house. B, homeschool. This is a form of education where the parent is the teacher and the child is the student. The parents have the option and the capacity to educate their children themselves. Now, this is very important. Homeschooling is parent-led. So, it's somewhat personalized. It is home-based. It is flexible. When you say home-based, it doesn't mean it's really limited to the home, but anywhere could be a home with a full learning experience. Letter C, traditional learning. In the traditional learning, it involves a teacher. There's a facility. There's a group of students that gather together in this facility at a specific time to learn from the teacher, or nowadays we call them facilitator. It may also include paper-based assessments and assignments. But through the years, this traditional learning is evolving. We have the so-called progressive education. It is a little deviation from the traditional learning because it gives more value to experience rather than formal learning. It is based on experiential learning, and it concentrates on the development of the kids' talents more than just, honing the mindset. It is focused on the development of the 21st century skills. This is creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and this is what Wise Kids School is known for. As we say, Wise Kids School is an advanced children's school geared towards business and leadership. Letter D is the online learning. This is now becoming famous. It is an education that takes place over the internet. So you have to have a Wi-Fi connection. Also referred to as e-learning. It is just one type of distance learning. You're far away from the school facilities. And it is an umbrella term, the distance learning, that for any learning that takes place across distance, not in the traditional classroom setup. Example of our online learning for Wise Kids is the Fast Forward for English, the Kubits and the Math Score for the math. Letter E is what we have also in the Wise Kids is the modular learning. It is an alternative learning that uses developed instructional materials. These are prepared modules already based on the needs of the students. Herein there is mastery. They're encouraged to work on various activities that are interesting to them, may be challenging also, and thereby encouraging independent study. This is what is being focused on by the PACES of the School of Tomorrow. Letter F is blended learning. It is a style of education in which the students learn in two ways. That's why it's blended. One, it's via electronic or online media, as well as number two, the traditional face-to-face learning. So this is what we are currently planning to do in Wise Kids School. So somewhat, but this is not yet final. Maybe a few days inside the classroom for one group of students, and the other group of students is doing online learning, and then for some other days it's vice versa. Now please reflect on this. Based on these definitions, what is your initial learning inclination? We're now in part 2, and that is comparison. Based on experience, let me share with you the prominent reasons of our homeschool parents for adopting the modular and homeschool learning. Letter A is mixed academic abilities. Some of them are very fast learners, but also there are some of them who cannot catch maybe in math or in science. Letter B, special needs, hyperactivity or autism, which does not really work well with regular classroom setup. Letter C is social anxiety. They may have experienced bullying, or they are not really very comfortable working, socializing with bigger groups. Letter D is health concerns. We have encountered this a lot of times. And of course, with this pandemic thing, this is also a particular concern. Letter E is parents' mobility or availability. We also have some parents who migrated, so to transition their children from one country to another, and especially in time, they also have brought with them the modules. Or there might be families whose one parent is very much available to do hands-on learning with their children. Letter F is preference for hands-on activities. Different kids, different ways of learning. So some would learn better during practical ways, having practical ways rather than a regular classroom setup. Letter G is enhanced values formation. This is where we have more parents, the reason for most of the parents adopting homeschool or modular, because they would want to make sure that they mentor their kids well, only to find out eventually that they are the first ones to be transformed. So they wanted to impart the values, the biblical values, Christian values, to their children through the day-to-day activities. Letter H is enhance special interests and gifts. That's one of the reasons why we had the homeschool for our athlete boy. And letter I is flexibility with time and schedule. This is one advantage of the modular and homeschool. They can start their learning by 9 o'clock, maybe end at 10, and then resume at other time schedule. So, let's reflect. If you are considering homeschooling, what is your compelling reason? You have to be very clear with why. What is your biggest why? So, this is now the meat of our discussion. Letter B, it's the comparison chart of the different learning modes. I have here 8 areas, and please look at your screen very well so you can see the comparison of the traditional versus the modular and homeschooling. Una po, for the class time. Of course, for the traditional, we have a regular class hours. But for both the modular and homeschooling, it's flexible. For the curriculum, in the traditional, it's the school who sets the curriculum. For the modular, we have the prescribed modules already. But for the homeschooling, this is more personalized. You can plan your own curriculum. In the traditional part of the curriculum, we have special interest clubs. So If you're into basketball, sports, music, the school is the one that is choosing for you. But for the modular and for the homeschooling, you have more time to enroll in your child's interest classes. For the testing, traditional is standardized. For the modular, this is more focused on the mastery. There are ready sets of tests, but the reason is for mastery. But for the homeschooling, you can personalize your own tests. But depending on your homeschool provider, they will be asking for a portfolio, like a copy of everything, of the projects, the modules, the textbooks, or anything that you have produced in the homeschool setup. What about the grading? For the grading for the traditional, it's standardized. There's this criteria, and the teachers have to follow in this. For the modular and homeschooling, they are both flexible, but of course, it's based on minimum requirements. If you're going to have Voice Kids as your provider, we can guide you through how do we do the grading procedures. What about parents' involvement? For the traditional, it's actually minimal. Doing assignments, assisting for the needs of the students, and of course, reviewing during the test, parents-teachers conferences. But for the modular, there's more involvement and there's heavier involvement for the homeschooling. That is why we usually suggest to the parents of homeschoolers that they join the support group. What is in the support group? These are composed of different parents from different age levels who are also homeschooling their children. What about the family culture inculcation? It's generalized for the traditional method. Of course, the general values that we present to the children. But for the modular and homeschooling, it's really intentional and embedded in the choice curriculum. That is why you really have to come up with activities wherein you're teaching, for example, honesty, openness, sex education, purity. So the parents are more intentional of what materials to use, where do they handle the sessions, etc. What about the school environment? In the traditional setup, they usually work with peers. But in the modular and homeschooling, there's freedom from any form of unhealthy influence. So the parents will not be afraid of their kids learning about this and about that from other children. In the school environment for the traditional, there's this advantage of the supervision of the licensed and trained educators. But for the modular, there could be minimal teachers' help. For the homeschooler, guidance from at least one parent. Opo, if you're considering homeschooling, you have to talk it out with your husband or wife who's going to be the hands-on parent. Also, we have to make it clear that in either modular or homeschooling, with the Google, you can have various teachers who have different expertise teaching your children on different subjects. So it doesn't have to be that it's only the parent who's the primary teacher of your children. Values formation. It is also embedded in the curriculum, in the routines and the environment of the traditional classroom. But for the modular and homeschooling, now listen to this one. It is more of exemplified by the teachers, the parents as the facilitators. So you get to choose your tutors who have more or less character. At the same time, this is what we learn from our own experience. We parents are the ones that are first transformed because we cannot model, we cannot teach a certain virtue if we're not able to model it to them. For the teaching style, in the traditional setup, one lesson, one approach, or maybe two approaches. But for modular, it's individualized learning. And for homeschool, it's varied depending on the learning style. The last criteria for the comparison is the cost. I know, right? You're very particular on this. For the traditional, of course, we have the tuition fee, the books, projects, miscellaneous, school survey, or the fare going to and fro the school. For the modular, we have to buy the modules. So you have a module fee, registration, and administrative fees. But for the homeschooling, it's as flexible as your budget. If you have big budget, you can buy more equipment and more resources. You can go to different places to just teach one particular lesson. In our experience, we have parents who usually go to different places just to teach, like Araling Panlipunan. They go to Bicol, show the Mayon volcano. They go to Tagaytay and then show the Taal volcano, like that. So it's really flexible, but if you have a limited budget, you can probably also choose to have textbooks or combination of having online. You choose the online. The Khan Academy is the one which is a free thing. So it really depends on your budget. So please look at the matrix and check which one is really applicable to your budget and to your family lifestyle. This is now in part 3. Thank you for staying with me. The first one was all about what is education, and the second one we did a quick comparison among the 3 learning modes. Number 3 is QRA, that is Quick Readiness Assessment. There are 8 questions here that you need to answer for you to know if this modular or homeschool learning is for you. Number 1, what is our ultimate goal in our child's education? What is it that you want to achieve? Number 2, what is our compelling reason for choice of an alternative learning mode? Why modular? Why homeschooling? Based on the comparison list that I gave you. This has to be clear. Your biggest why. I will have to be very honest with you. It's not easy to do modular or even homeschool. But you always have to go back to your why. Because when you know why you're doing it, then it's easier for you to come back and do it again even after several trial and error and hardships. Number 3, what is our available budget? Is it so much? Is it minimal? Let's talk about it. Number 3, do we have available learning spaces and infrastructure in the house? You have to have a Wi-Fi connection at least, or maybe it doesn't have to be very big, but usually a confined space within your house wherein your child will be undisturbed during his learning time. Now, there was a question like how many hours do we need to learn and study inside the house? The minimum requirement is about 2 to 4 hours depending on the age level. Number 5, who will facilitate our child's learning in the house? Somebody has to man over it. It doesn't have to be that one is giving up his work, but the overseeing part is very crucial. Number 6, how much time are we willing to invest to plan our child's curriculum, lessons, schedule, activities, and overseeing of our child's learning? When you choose Wise Kids as your homeschool provider, we will guide you through the process. But from time to time, we will have collaboration session, maybe through the Zoom, for you to know what is expected, the competencies that are expected from one particular term to another. By the way, in Wise Kids, we have 3 terms. But this is a little time consuming. Also, when you have to join the support group and learn from your co-parents, this will also entail such a time for you. Number 7, how committed are we to develop ourselves? Yes, yes, and yes. It takes a lot of patience and flexibility on the part of the homeschooling parent to do this. But I am telling you, there is really transformation of the heart of both the parents and the children. Number 8, the last one. Yay! What is the whole family's perspective regarding our mode of learning and its pertinent adjustments? We have to involve the whole family. Of course, at first, your child is not welcoming the idea that you're going to see each other for a very long time and you're going to send him very far away from his peers. But with better communication and mapping out of the adjustments, I think we can make it work. You can make it work. So, please run through the QRAs. Now, for our next steps, it's as easy as A, B, and C. This is the most important part, dear parent. This is what differentiates you from the other parents who just watched this video. You are proactive, I believe, and advanced. Letter A, answer the QRA as a family. If you want, you can request for a copy of the comparison chart and the QRA by sending us a request through 0933-868-7669 and give us your email address. Letter B, balance the pros and cons. You can probably have a trial set up, have a schedule for the next week while everyone is on ECQ, answer book exercises, or maybe do online programs. And letter C, contact us for more information. Send us a private message through our Wise Kids page or via text in 0933-868-7669. After all this presentation, my prayer is that now we are ready to answer our title question. Homeschool, modular, or traditional? Which one works for us? Until then, this is Mitch Gustillo, also known as Teacher Mitch. I would want to see you in my next webcast, maybe based on the frequently asked questions. And this is my prayer for every one of us, that we will be able to mentor our next generation of leaders. God bless us.